Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Kane's team members swap war stories with Kyle. Kane Ashby is planning a cunning Billy Abbott setup, while Kyle Abbott will make a reset button plea to Claire Newman. Claire will gripe to Victoria Newman in the park about Kyle digging a bigger hole for himself. Despite how ridiculous it all was, be impressed. Victoria will receive updates on the $5 million contract and Kyle's vow to leave town if he shattered her heart. Victoria will believe that Kyle is afraid of losing her, since Claire will also discuss the most recent Holden Novak turmoil and how possessive Kyle has gotten. When Nate Hastings runs into Kyle at Crimson Lights, Kyle will question whether Nate will attack him because of what transpired with Audra Charles. Nate will, however, treat Kyle as a victim as well and reassure him that fists won't fly. Nate will regrettably have to accept Kyle's apology for what he's going through and his claim that he's better off without Audra. When Kyle asks Nate about Holden, Nate eventually confesses that he believes the man is bad news. Nate will share many of Kyle's worries because they will be talking about Holden's interest in Audra and their past in Los Angeles. Nate will seem as though that's simply his personality and will appear to believe that Holden has hung up on Audra, but Kyle will worry about Holden taking advantage of Claire when she's weak. Nate and Kyle will invite Claire and Victoria to join them at their table when they arrive. Claire would think that Kyle was referring to Audra and possibly Holden when he hinted at exchanging combat experiences. Kyle would try to divert their attention by implying that the discussion was too dull to repeat. In the end, Nate will discuss Amy Lewis remaining with him and will have a card in the car with her condolences for Victoria and Claire. Claire will question Kyle about his previous conversation with Nate as Victoria and Nate go outside to get it. Kyle will acknowledge that his suspicions were validated when he questioned Nate about Holden. Claire will complain that she can take care of herself and doesn't need Kyle's protection, but Kyle will still be worried. Regarding the drama Kyle keeps causing in their relationship, he will admit that he is afraid of losing Claire and will plead for an opportunity to start over. Kane will encounter Amanda Sinclair on the train and ponder her current connection with Lily Winters. When Amanda looks at Lily, she will believe that she still sees Hillary Curtis, but she will also acknowledge that Lily feels pity for her because Devon Winters cheated on her with Abby Winters. Since Daniel Romalotti Jr. cheated on her as well, Lily may identify. Amanda will be encouraged by Kane to try to understand Lily's feelings for him and to turn that pity into a friendship. Kane will want to know if Lily will ever be able to see his positive side. Amanda will question whether Kane is certain about his intention to give Billy the AI software. Billy won't know about it, but Kane will disclose that he will still have authority over the program and can dictate what it does. Kane will persevere on carrying out his dangerous plan despite Amanda's concerns about what might happen if Billy finds out. Kane will text Billy to ask whether they are a go once Amanda leaves. On Monday's Y&R episode, Lily will discuss her conflicted thoughts about everything and the mess Kane made with the twins with Devon at Society. When Amanda arrives and announces that she will be visiting the area more frequently now that Kane has moved, there will be a strained atmosphere. Amanda hopes Devon and Abby won't have any issues with that. Amanda will beg to talk to Lily alone after exaggerating how heartbroken Kane is over the circumstances involving the children. Lily will then have an opportunity to address Amanda's apparent continued longing for Devon. Christian LeBlanc's character Michael Baldwin will inform Michelle Stafford's character Phyllis Summers in the park that they are now teammates. When Phyllis learns that Michael accepted Kane's offer of employment, she will wonder how Kane managed to get Michael out of retirement. In order to get Phyllis to agree that they are the greatest and will form Kane's ideal team, Michael will express his desire to mend their relationship. Despite this, Phyllis will continue to feel some hurt and rage about Michael's previous betrayal. When Phyllis finds out that Michael is excluding Lauren Fenmore Baldwin, she will question whether he took this job because he wanted to mend their relationship. Michael will imply that he might have to do something unethical for Kane, which will only increase Phyllis' suspicions. Michael will argue that this is his method of excluding Lauren, but Phyllis will believe there is more going on here. In order to persuade Kane not to trust Michael, Phyllis will insist on knowing his secret. Kane's team members swapped war stories with Kyle, but what started out as casual banter over their past experiences and business battles quickly grew into something deeper, an exchange where old wounds resurfaced and vulnerabilities bled into the present. Kyle Abbott sat across from Kane's associates, listening to them detail ruthless strategies, backstabbings, and half-won victories in the cutthroat world of corporate warfare, and while he smirked at their bravado, there was a flicker of unease in his eyes, a recognition that the lessons he was hearing might foreshadow his own future if he wasn't careful. Kane Ashby, meanwhile, kept his cards close to his chest, his eyes sharp as he orchestrated a cunning setup meant to entangle Billy Abbott in a web that would be nearly impossible to escape. And though Kane smiled through the conversation, there was an unmistakable chill beneath the surface. At the same time, Kyle was rehearsing his own strategy, not against Billy, but for Claire Newman, determined to press the reset button on their fragile relationship. He could already picture himself standing before her in Chancellor Park, confessing that despite his blunders and his possessiveness, he didn't want to lose her, not now, not ever. Claire, for her part, would vent to Victoria Newman about Kyle's latest antics, griping about how instead of digging them out of a hole, he was only digging deeper, dragging her name into Holden Novak's mess and making himself look desperate in the process. Victoria would listen patiently, her expression unreadable, but when Claire admitted Kyle's promise to leave town if he broke her heart, Victoria would inwardly be impressed despite how ridiculous it sounded. To her, the $5 million contract updates meant more than declarations of love, yet she couldn't ignore the possibility that Kyle's fear of losing Claire was genuine. As Claire added details about Holden's turbulence, his dangerous mood swings, his toxic jealousy, Victoria pieced together the bigger picture. Kyle's possessiveness wasn't born from arrogance but from sheer terror that Holden could swoop in and exploit Claire's vulnerabilities. Later, when Nate Hastings encountered Kyle at Crimson Lights, Kyle half expected fists to fly. After all, the mess with Audra Charles had left bruises on more than reputations, and Kyle braced himself for Nate's fury. Instead, Nate surprised him, treating him less like an adversary and more like a fellow casualty in Holden's ongoing storm. Nate reassured Kyle that he had no intention of throwing punches and even accepted Kyle's halting apology for the chaos surrounding Audra. Still, when the conversation shifted to Holden, Kyle leaned in, needing validation for his suspicions. Nate sighed before admitting he shared some of those concerns, confessing that Holden was bad news and that his interest in Audra, and potentially in Claire, reeked of manipulation. The two men sat in uneasy solidarity, talking about Holden's past in Los Angeles, about the people he'd left damaged in his wake, and though Nate tried to downplay it as Holden's personality, Kyle couldn't shake the gnawing dread that Holden was circling Claire like a predator. When Victoria and Claire eventually arrived at Crimson Lights, Nate and Kyle quickly invited them to join. Kyle tried to lighten the mood, hinting about swapping combat experiences, though Claire instantly caught his double meaning and wondered if he was talking about Audra and Holden. She rolled her eyes at his attempt to gloss over the tension, and Kyle diverted, joking that the stories were too dull to repeat. But the momentary levity faded when Nate shifted gears, mentioning Amy Lewis and her decision to stay with him. He offered condolences to Victoria and Claire, handing them a small card he'd left in his car, and as Nate and Victoria stepped outside to fetch it, Claire seized the chance to press Kyle about what he and Nate had really discussed. Kyle admitted that Nate had confirmed his worst suspicions: Holden wasn't trustworthy. Claire bristled, arguing that she could handle herself, that she didn't need Kyle playing protector, but he confessed the truth. He wasn't trying to control her, he was terrified of losing her. His plea for a fresh start, for just one more chance to get it right, left Claire unsettled, torn between frustration and the flicker of hope that maybe Kyle's love was real after all. Meanwhile, Kane had boarded a train and found himself face to face with Amanda Sinclair, who was surprised by his sudden charm and directness. Their conversation quickly shifted to Lily Winters, and Amanda admitted that sometimes, when she looked at Lily, she still saw Hillary Curtis's ghost staring back, which made her sympathy complicated. Kane seized on that vulnerability, urging Amanda to transform pity into connection, suggesting that Lily's empathy might be the key to turning their fractured history into friendship. Kane pressed further, asking if Amanda thought Lily could ever see him as anything but the man who broke her heart. Amanda, skeptical, warned Kane about his reckless intentions, especially when he hinted about giving Billy control over a new AI software. Kane revealed his twist. Billy wouldn't know that Kane retained the ultimate authority over the program. He could dictate its functions, bending it to his will, ensuring Billy danced to his tune without realizing it. Amanda balked, warning of the fallout if Billy uncovered the truth, but Kane's grin was unshakable. He sent Billy a cryptic text, "Are we a go?" The moment Amanda walked away, his dangerous plan already in motion. Elsewhere, Lily poured out her conflicted feelings to Devon at Society, confessing how Kane's betrayal with the twins still haunted her, even as she tried to move forward. Devon listened with a mix of sympathy and guilt, knowing his own choices with Abby had scarred Amanda in ways he still struggled to admit. The air grew even heavier when Amanda herself arrived, announcing that she planned to spend more time in Genoa City now that Kane was around. The tension at the table was palpable, and though Amanda insisted she hoped Devon and Abby could accept her presence, her eyes lingered too long on Devon, betraying her lingering heartbreak. Amanda asked Lily for a private chat, overplaying Kane's anguish to tug at Lily's compassion. Lily agreed, but the conversation quickly veered into personal territory when Lily confronted Amanda about her unresolved feelings for Devon. As one storm brewed there, another unfolded in the park, where Michael Baldwin updated Phyllis Summers on his latest career twist. Michael revealed he had accepted Kane's job offer, and though he framed it as a chance to rebuild trust with Phyllis, she saw through him instantly. Shocked that Kane had lured Michael out of retirement, Phyllis grilled him on his motives. Michael claimed he wanted to form an unbeatable alliance with her under Kane's leadership, but Phyllis couldn't let go of past betrayals. She pressed harder when she realized Lauren Fenmore was conspicuously absent from Michael's plans. Did Michael truly want to fix their partnership, or was he hiding something darker? Michael skirted around the truth, admitting Kane might need him for something unethical but framing it as an opportunity to shield Lauren from getting dragged in. Phyllis wasn't convinced, suspecting Kane had leverage and that Michael's loyalty was, as always, for sale. Determined not to let Kane manipulate everyone around her, Phyllis vowed to uncover Michael's secret and feed it back to Kane at the right moment, ensuring that if anyone was going to do the manipulating this time, it would be her. Kyle tried to shake off the unease gnawing at him after his latest encounter with Nate, but the look in Claire's eyes lingered with him longer than he expected. She had brushed off his warnings, insisting she could protect herself, yet Kyle knew there was more beneath the surface. He replayed her tone, firm, almost annoyed, but not entirely dismissive, and for Kyle, that was enough of a lifeline to cling to. Claire, however, wasn't done venting. When Victoria and Nate returned to the table, she used their presence as a shield, a way to deflect Kyle's intensity, but later, as she and Victoria strolled together through the park, Claire's frustrations spilled out again. He doesn't get it, she told Victoria. Kyle thinks that hovering, interrogating, and warning me about every shadow is love. It's not. It's smothering. Victoria, ever pragmatic, raised a brow and countered with quiet wisdom, maybe it's both. Sometimes fear of loss comes out messy. He's been reckless, yes, but maybe he's reckless because he finally has something to lose. Claire exhaled heavily, torn between her anger and the undeniable ache in her heart whenever Kyle wasn't around. Victoria then pivoted to the business side, updating Claire on the $5 million contract. She noted that Kyle had risked more than reputation to secure it. His vow to leave town if he broke Claire's heart was dramatic, yes, but Victoria suspected it wasn't just bluster. He's scared, Victoria said. Not of Holden. Not of failure. Of you walking away. That observation lodged itself in Claire's mind, even as she tried to dismiss it, and though she rolled her eyes, there was a flicker of emotion she couldn't mask. Meanwhile, Kane remained several steps ahead of everyone, weaving his threads carefully. His brief meeting with Amanda had given him enough insight to tighten the noose around Billy Abbott, but Amanda's warnings gnawed at him in quieter moments. On the train ride back, Kane leaned his head against the seat, calculating risks. Giving Billy the illusion of control over the AI software was brilliant. Billy would dive headfirst, reckless as always, but Kane retaining backdoor authority meant he could dictate every move, every outcome. Still, Amanda's words echoed. What happens when Billy finds out? Kane smirked to himself. Billy wouldn't find out, at least not until it was too late. What Kane hadn't anticipated was Amanda's conflicted loyalty. Despite her disapproval, she couldn't resist trying to protect Lily, and Kane knew she might share more than she should. That risk didn't deter him, it thrilled him. He thrived on chaos, on twisting people's doubts into his advantage. By the time his phone buzzed with Billy's reply, just a terse "we're on," Kane's smile widened. The trap was set. Across town, Lily was still wrestling with her tangled emotions. Sitting at Society with Devon, She stirred her tea absent-mindedly, staring at the steam as though it held answers. Devon, sensing her turmoil, tried to nudge her gently. "You're still thinking about Kane, aren't you?" Lily sighed, admitting that part of her would always think about him, no matter how much she wanted to move on. "He's the father of my children. He's part of my past, my family, but he's also the one who blew everything apart." Devon reached across the table, taking her hand. "Don't let him write your future too." Just then, Amanda walked in, and the air shifted instantly. Devon tensed, Abby stiffened beside him, and Lily straightened in her chair, bracing herself. Amanda's announcement that she'd be staying in Genoa City more frequently now that Kane was around landed like a grenade. Devon's jaw tightened, Abby frowned, and Lily forced a polite smile. Amanda's eyes flicked briefly to Devon before settling on Lily. "I was hoping we could talk, alone." Devon's instinct was to protest, but Lily waved him off, following Amanda into a quieter corner. Their conversation began with Amanda overselling Kane's heartbreak, her voice soft, almost pleading. "He's hurting, Lily. Over the twins, over everything. He doesn't know how to fix it, and maybe he never will, but he's trying." Lily folded her arms, skeptical. "Trying isn't enough. He's always trying to charm, trying to manipulate, trying to excuse what he's done. I can't keep giving him passes." Amanda hesitated, then changed tack, letting her emotions slip. "You think I don't know what it feels like to be betrayed? Devon, Abby, Daniel. I've been cheated on, discarded, humiliated. But Kane, he sees you differently. He still believes in you, even when you don't believe in him." Lily's eyes softened briefly, but then hardened again. "Don't confuse pity with love, Amanda. You see Hillary in me, and maybe Kane sees someone he can win back, but I'm not Hillary. And Kane isn't the man he wants me to believe he is." The words hung heavy between them, a mix of truth and pain that Amanda couldn't argue against. At the park, another revelation simmered. Michael Baldwin, energized by his newfound partnership with Kane, tried to sell Phyllis on the idea of a powerhouse team. "You and I, together, we could be unstoppable. Kane has the resources, I have the legal expertise, you have the vision. We could run this town." Phyllis narrowed her eyes, folding her arms. "And what about Lauren? Does she even know you're playing puppet for Kane?" Michael hesitated, then admitted he hadn't told her everything. Phyllis pounced, sensing blood in the water. "So you're keeping secrets from your wife to jump back into the game with Kane? That's not loyalty, Michael, that's desperation." Michael bristled, but Phyllis pressed harder. "What did Kane promise you? Money? Influence? Or is it something darker? Because the Michael Baldwin I know doesn't crawl out of retirement without a damn good reason." Michael's gaze flickered, revealing just enough guilt for Phyllis to latch onto. "If you think I'm going to let you drag me down with you, think again," she warned. "You want to play Kane's game? Fine. But don't expect me to sit quietly while you burn everything around you." What Phyllis didn't admit was that she was already plotting her own counter, digging into Kane's secrets, prying into Michael's deal, and preparing to turn the tables the moment it benefited her. As night fell over Genoa City, threads began weaving tighter. Kyle returned home, pacing as he replayed his plea to Claire. He knew he sounded desperate, but it was the truth. He loved her, and the thought of Holden circling her like a shark filled him with dread. Claire, meanwhile, sat with Victoria, quietly confessing that part of her wanted to believe Kyle, to give him another chance. "But every time I let him in, he finds a way to blow it up again," she whispered. Victoria, sipping her wine, mused that love was always a gamble. The question is whether the risk is worth it. At the same time, Kane stood in his office, staring out the window as the city lights glowed. He could feel the pieces shifting, Billy unknowingly stepping into his trap, Michael tethered to his will, Phyllis itching to betray him but still playing along, Amanda wavering, Lily conflicted. It was a dangerous game, but Kane had always loved games. And in his mind, there was only one outcome, victory. What none of them realized was that Holden Novak was already moving, already planning his next strike. And while Kyle feared Holden's interest in Claire, and Nate feared Holden's obsession with Audra, the truth was more complicated. Holden wasn't done with any of them. He thrived on chaos, and he was just getting started. Holden Novak sat in his dimly lit suite at the Grand Phoenix, pouring himself a drink as he stared at a file sprawled across the table. Photos, names, timelines, Claire, Audra, Kyle, even Nate, were all connected in his web of red string and scribbled notes. He traced a line with his finger from Claire's picture to Kyle's, muttering under his breath, "You think you can protect her? You think love is enough?" His smirk was dark, calculated. Holden wasn't obsessed in the way others assumed. He was methodical, deliberate, and hungry for control. He thrived on watching cracks widen into canyons, and Genoa City was the perfect stage. Meanwhile, Billy Abbott sat at his desk, staring at Kane's text, "Are we a go?" and wondering if he was about to make a mistake. Something in his gut told him Kane's offer was too good to be true, but Billy's ego drowned out his doubts. This AI software represented a chance to leap ahead, to prove himself to Jack, to Victoria, even to himself. Billy fired back a short reply, "Let's do it," and leaned back in his chair, unaware that Kane had already scripted his downfall. Kane wanted Billy desperate, dependent, and ultimately humiliated, and every step Billy took toward the deal tightened the trap. At Society, Kyle confided in Nate again, restless and anxious. Holden circling Claire, "I can feel it," Kyle muttered. Nate sipped his coffee, torn between reason and instinct. "Claire's strong, Kyle. She's not going to just fall for whatever Holden's selling." But Kyle shook his head, his voice rising with emotion. "You don't understand. Holden doesn't have to convince her. He just has to wait until I screw up again. And I will, because that's what I do." Nate studied him, finally realizing that Kyle's desperation wasn't paranoia. It was fear, raw and genuine. Out in the park, Claire and Victoria lingered on a bench, the conversation looping back to Kyle. Claire sighed, rubbing her temples. "It's like he's everywhere, protecting me, interrogating me, apologizing. And then there's Holden, just waiting in the wings. It's exhausting." Victoria leaned forward, her voice soft but firm. "Maybe what you see as exhausting is actually proof. Kyle's terrified of losing you because, deep down, he knows you're it for him. Holden? He thrives on destruction. The question is, do you want a man who breaks things for sport, or one who breaks himself trying to keep you?" Claire didn't answer, but her silence was telling. Back at Crimson Lights, Kane watched from the corner as Michael Baldwin entered, sliding into the booth with a smug grin. "Lauren doesn't know," Michael admitted flatly. "And she won't, not yet. But if you cross me, Kane, I'll make sure you regret ever dragging me back into this." Kane leaned back, his smirk unshakable. "Relax, Michael. You and Phyllis are my dream team. We're going to rewrite the rules of this town." Kane's voice dropped to a whisper, laced with menace. "But only if you remember who's really in charge." Michael's grin faltered just enough to betray unease, and Kane knew he'd won, for now. What none of them realized was that Holden had been listening all along.